Well, got my new snake boots. You see my snake boots?
I don't need to.
Yeah, thanks. But breaking them in.
Mm-hmm.
So I used the subtle soap you gave me. That was good. That helped a lot. But so I was reading on the internet. You know, everything on the internet's true, and it said that you should urinate on your boots.
So you did that?
Well, I got ready to go. I
Yeah.
thought about it, and I decided not to.
Yeah.
But this guy had written this whole thing about how.
What's up, man?
Hey, how are you, gentlemen?
We're just arguing the myth that you're supposed to pee on your boots to break them in.
Yeah,
No.
got some new snake boots, and it's like the urine will repel the snakes, and it breaks in the leather. And this guy had the whole great argument written out, and so I got ready to go, and I talked myself out of it.
Yeah, I
So,
say fuck that guy. He
What was
sounds
it?
nuts.
I ain't peed on my boots. Nope.
No, dude. Give us your background. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of give everybody an intro on what you guys are up to, because I know it's some interesting stuff.
Yeah. So John Symcox, I'm our Chief Innovation Officer here at First Fidelity Bank, and family bank, 100 years old. I'm fifth generation. But I didn't originally plan on getting back in the banking business. I was one of those guys that said, I'm going to go do my own thing. So out of college, I started financial planning, and that I picked the best time to do it in the summer of 2007.
Yep.
And everything crashed in 2008. So
Yep.
I had to figure out how to, nobody had any money, so I had to figure out how to create money out of nothing. So I ended up getting into business consulting and talking small business owners into, if I could make you more efficient and you could save money somehow, would you give me the money you save and I'll go invest it for you? And so
I found my way to banking.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So that's kind of how I started out, and working with businesses and technology to make them more efficient and go paperless and all that, and got sucked back into the bank when everything kind of started going back on the upswing. And I got the ask from my dad, say, hey, that thing you're doing with all your clients, can you come do that for ours? And I said, okay. So then I'm gradually moved my way up to innovation, because it kept being a millennial and asking, why are we doing it that way? Too much.
Yeah, that sounds right, man. I have the same backstory, except I was on the real estate side in the 2008 piece, and I'm also fifth generation on the banking side, and I think sixth on the ranching side. So I get it, man. It's pretty cool and a funny background when you get kind of sucked back into things. It's pretty cool.
So there's two kinds of Okies. Are you the cowboy or the Sooner kind?
Ooh.
Can you be both?
No.
I don't know, but yeah, I guess so.
I'm a Sooner, but not like I'm actually the black swan of my family. I'm the only one that didn't actually go to OU.
Yep.
So I went to school up in Missouri called Westminster College, and grew up in Norman, all that stuff, but I'm the only one in my family that didn't go. Although I do have two cousins that are now UT alums, so they're just disowned.
I get it.
They don't count.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you a crazy story. I grew up in Purcell, and so I'm a lifelong Sooner, and lived down here pretty much since high school. And anyway, so the name of our ranch is the Soonhorn Ranch. Yep. That'll tell you a lot right there.
There you go.
But hey, man, missed you at the roundup. I know you guys intended on coming, but I wanted to kind of go over a couple of cool things that y'all are doing that I think is so interesting for other bankers to hear. Y'all being the sponsor bank for Unify Money is just like really cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
And there's everybody this time of year, right? Everybody predicts the future. So I don't
do it.
Yeah, I mean, I never really got that anyway. It's like, I'm going to make my thing, and we'll see how I turn out at the end of the year, and they only tell you the ones they got right, and it's like, got the game, but I don't get it. So anyway, but yeah, Bass banking is a big deal to us, obviously, being with the Bass Association and all that. But so we're big believers in that being a huge part of community banking's future. And I'm reaching more and more every day. I think we both are, where it's no longer like it's a huge part. No, it's like, this is the path.
Yeah,
whether you get it or not.
I'm seeing it as less and less optional.
Yeah.
Well, I keep telling everybody we'll have different words, I think, and it'll shape up different, but something around whether we're calling them businesses or merchants, and whether you look at it as business services and banking functionality being extended, something in the mixture of all of those words is going to look a hell of a lot different in 10 years than it does today.
And so here's the other side.
It's pretty cool.
Here's the other thing that we're pretty high on is that, there's bankers that'll tell you stories like, hey, my daughter will never come into my bank. She's going to do it on, right here, man. That's where she's going to do her stuff. Right. And so I get it. And, but when we start talking about wealth management, it's such an easy extension of banking, and something that I think we're still trapped in the 80s kind of thing, right? Where it's like, okay, at best, I can do these following things. And then most people don't even know what a private bank is. And, so the concept of extension of, wealth management services to your everyday banking customer, whether that be a business customer or a retail customer.
It's pretty fresh.
But, and to me, I'm one of those people who it's like, if you do the business side, well, you probably got my other side of my business. I mean, my personal side as well. So there's a lot there, regardless of which side you're on in banking. And so my big question for you guys is, I mean, you obviously see this wealth management as a big part of the future like we do. And how did you see that? And how did you get connected with the Unify Money guys and go into this whole different way of doing it?
Well, so there's two answers to that question. I want to hit both of them pretty heavy because it's really a lot to do with why I'm doing what I'm doing. So the first side is, I told you my background in wealth management. So I started out in that world, being a financial advisor, and turned into the business consultant, understanding how businesses, operated and get them efficient. So that understanding of the concept of you have a business to create wealth, and then you got to have a place to store and manage and be a steward of that wealth, right? And banks are generally looked at as conduits for things like access to credit and transactions, essentially. But the thing is, you got a business that has to operate on one hand, and then you got this place that has to steward the wealth side of things, whether it's your personal wealth or your employees or whoever that is. And the bank's in the middle of that, right? Because all your transactions, your growth side of your business is out of credit. Your transactions and all the things you're doing for your business operations is operated out of the bank. And so then you got to take what you're doing there and say, hey, we made profit. Now what do we do with our profit, right? And you're going to store that someplace else. So why have banks always been separated from the investment side, right? As far as that conversation goes. So I've always asked that question. And so since I've been asking that question, and we have small business people who don't look at their finances, maybe in the past, I mean, I've grown up, so yes, in the 80s and, early 90s, people did look at their banking and their investments as totally different things because it was very simple, but it was also very easy to parse the lines. Today's small business owners, their personal assets, their business assets, whatever it is, they just look at it as like finance problems that I got to get solved. And I need a place to go and have that conversation. And it's not even like you have to have the answers to those business questions or those wealth questions or any of those questions. You just really got to be a place where somebody actually trusts you and they're not watching TV and going, hey, I've got this annuity idea, or hey, I've got this investment thing, or hey, we can help you out here. We got the best plan on, in the world on gold or whatever. Is really just kind of this one thing that you got to figure out, like, what is the bank's role in the future? And we talk about banking as a service, and we talk about all these things that, digital banking, you held up your phone, and, we still have brick and mortar. We're going to have brick and mortar. I don't think that's going to go away. I think it's going to change how we use those brick and mortars, because I think it's really a conversation of like, hey, there is this complex world of finance, and I need somebody to be an advocate and facilitate all that stuff. you don't even have to know the answer. In fact, I don't want you to know the answer. I just want you to help me find the answer, because there's so many out there. If you think, if I walk in and you actually are acting like you know the answer, I'm calling you bullshit.
I love it.
You don't know the answer, right?
Yeah, man. That's great.
Yeah, you guys kind of jumped into both feet, which is really cool. You're not only doing the BAS sponsor bank side, but also, I'm assuming that you're planning on offering these wealth management services to your own customers as well.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I'll tell you, man, I hear it from a lot of banks that have that same vision of, hey, let's go find things. And if we really believe in them enough to sponsor them, we damn sure would love to be one of the early folks that launches it, right? And it's a really good thought. So it's cool to see.
So this is, I just got your You're gonna love this. Okay,
go.
So I talked to, I probably shouldn't say who and why and how I know these things, but okay, biggest data collector you can ever think of on this front. And they gave a big presentation at the roundup about this, about, they call it leakage. So it's ACH outflows from the institution, right? And what's number one? And so Coinbase was number one in the US. Yeah. Which at the time that he was giving that speech didn't blow me away too bad, right? And since then we've just seen crypto just, oh my God, you can't even talk about it anymore, FTX and all that stuff. But at the same time, I wanted to get an update, because everybody you talk to and everybody that calls me all the time is like, man, that's got to be like zero. It's dead. And I'm like, surprisingly, people are still putting money there. People are still going there. And the idea that crypto is finished is something that, me personally, it's finished. But I can tell you, as the United States goes, it's far from over, guys. This is not finished. And contrarian when you're talking about wealth management and how to grow assets and all that. I mean, everybody's like, hey, buy low, sell high, right? And if you have that concept where you see data and analysis and you know that people are still doing these outflows, that money is still going here and people are still doing this investing, it is not finished in light of everything that we know. This would be an excellent time for people to begin to take a look at that again.
It's great.
Yeah.
But it be done in a different way. And that's what I'm in. This is what I gotta go here, man. This is so exciting for me, what y'all are doing, because everybody has this idea that we have to custodial asset this crypto thing where all the risk is at.
No.
Right? And you talk about this all the time. And you guys
ask NIDIG if that was a good freaking idea. What a great story, but bullshit. It got you killed.
But you guys have set up this cool way to where your customer doesn't actually have to be exposed and own that.
Play the exchange.
They can still have access to the investment side of all kinds of different things. You want to elaborate on how you saw that and where? I mean, that's
that's the second question, is how do we get with Unify Money? In fact, it was kind of one of those things where, I'm in the venture space. I've got some connections there as well, so I see like what's going on. And like you said, you mentioned NIDIG, and there's so many of these companies that had evolved and said, hey, we can bring crypto to your bank, right? Somehow. And so we had so many others, I don't want to name them all. Some of them are doing a great job. Some of them are doing interesting things that I think are good business models, but none of it really fit us, because we didn't really want to go down the road of, okay, we want to put a crypto wallet in here. Well, we were actually looking for, what we want to do is we want to find a place that says, okay, we know, and this is weird, we know one of the largest requests we have of our customers is, hey, do you guys sell gold or silver? Or do you custody gold or silver? And then we have the next question of, do you guys have crypto? And then how do I go invest myself? I don't know what I don't have E-Trade or, what is Betterment? What is Robinhood? And then they see the Robinhood thing with the AMC and all the GameStop stuff and Reddit stuff. And they're like, I like all these apps out here doing all this stuff, but I don't really trust any of them. And I don't really have a place where somebody like does the work to say, is this a good company or not? Or, are they doing it the right way? And so we were like, yeah, we could bring 3 platforms to the market and plug all 3 in. But the reality is Unify Money's found a way to bring all 3 to the table at one time. Well, actually, it's 4 because you can do robo advice and you can do individual stocks and ETFs. So it's actually, robo, self-managed, gold and silver, precious metals, and then the crypto world. And we're not willing to jump into the crypto world on the side of, okay, we think crypto coins or stable coins or any of that is really the long game for what cryptocurrency is. We actually think it's going to be very different. And I don't even think I could express to you what it's going to be. It's kind of one of those shots of predictions that you could think. I think of it personally as the coin values themselves are like stock values of some sort of network that's going to be operating payment rails, like tokenized transactions like you see in merchant services or whatever. You're going to just have these different rails running, and it's like stock values, right? So the more somebody uses a version of coin, the more that coin is going to be used or going to be worth. But I don't think necessarily cash is going to go away or the US dollar is going to go away either. I think that's going to be the settlement on it. And so, but this blockchain thing's real. And so how do you combine these blockchain things and what is our merchant systems? And so I think there's some version of that that's going to happen in the future. I don't know how it's going to land. But at the same time, like, why am I to say you can't go invest in crypto or some stable coin or something? It's not my obligation to say that's a good or a bad choice. It's I need to bring all the options to the table, let the cards fall where they may, and then be there for our customers and understand what are you trying to do here? What decisions are you going to make? I'm not going to tell you if that's a good decision or a bad decision. I'm just going to say it's an option, right? So that's kind of what we decided to go with Unify Monies. It brought it all together, made it one place.
Right. The way you articulated that, I mean, your outlook on this is exactly the way I see it too. I mean, I get asked this morning, one of the big questions, we have a little thing in our Bass Association newsletter about what are we hearing? What are people talking about? And one of the first things that came up, as silly as this sounds, you would think crypto should be at 0 right now. And that's what everybody's kind of talking about, is that it's not. It's stabilized big time.
All of the insiders are talking about the fact that it hasn't. This is a big opportunity.
This should have gone away by now if it was going to go away, and it's not going away. And it's for the reasons that you outlined. Yeah. Okay. So we're on the same alignment on the idea that the technology behind this is really sound, and it's really something that's going to grow into something.
Can I just take one more chance to throw one more dart at NIDIG? I'm done. I'm done. I just had to. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I've been a long time naysayer there, man. And nothing against, I actually really liked everybody at Quantic. I love their vision. I think that the bank side worked out really well and had a good vision. But if you look at actually custodying the asset, and exactly to his point, if you talk about the idea of let's have a wallet, then you're trying to disintermediate cash and think about it as a transaction, as opposed to valuing it as a rail, a network, right? Almost like a stock value. And it is wildly different concepts. And if you think about this, it points to 2 totally different use cases. So I think if you have on one side, the average person who wants to put in a little bit of money and play more investment style, right? In exchange is the right path. Who wants to actually, have an institution that custodies the asset? Probably seriously large business. Yeah. Or highly unbelievably wealthy people, like 1% of 1%, right? If we're talking, I'm talking about Elon Musk would be my example, right? Otherwise, why wouldn't you just buy the paper, right? Yep. And so I came down to the exact same thought process you did, and I'm just a little upset still, if you can't tell. NIDIG did their best to try and convince the banking community that what we just said out loud was dead wrong. And it really upsets me when people try to misinform community bankers who are trying to educate. The facts are the facts, man, right? And so trying to sell a product with misinformation always irks me a little bit. So rant over. Moving on.
Better?
You may proceed.
Hey, this could be therapy too. It's all good.
Hey, all good. All good.
I feel better.
Yeah, I feel better.
No, man, this is really what this is all about. And I don't want to overplay the crypto side of this, but in our opinion, when you sit down and said, if you're going to toss a rock forward for those people that do want to predict the future, I can guarantee you a couple of things that are data driven from our side that are just mathematically correct. BaaS banking is definitely going to be bigger and bigger and bigger. And for the bankers out there that are listening to this is not optional. This is like, should I do lending or not? This is not an option. This is something you're going to do or you're going to get your ass kicked. Okay. The fact that you guys saw that and went out front on that, hats off to you. Okay. Second piece, the way wealth management is delivered today will change so dramatically. And it goes back to what I was saying about that banker saying, gosh, my daughter will never come in my bank. She wants to use her phone. Okay. That concept, just as a concept itself of how we do it and how we ought to do it, and how the disconnect between what is available today from our vendors and providers and from what the people want. The people want a different way to do wealth management. And you delivering that and you seeing that, man, I just think that puts you guys on a fast track way ahead in front of everybody else.
Yeah, we're really excited. And the vision of Unify Money to bring even in that wealth planning side potentially. But even in our conversations with them, that might be something that we actually bring to the table. But Unify Money understands that we might bring a wealth management platform to the table that helps like actually do the decisioning side, like your what you might have seen through advice systems, or like you go to a financial advisor, they got things like Money 360 and like there's like these, or e-money is one that I run into. And so and bringing together that PFM, like you've seen start to come to market, and then that true wealth like strategy platform, and Unify is looking at bringing some of that to the table. But
like the robo front end, man. Yeah, I got you.
There's that digital advice side that doesn't have to invest your portfolio, that could actually just be the calculator. So like you go to our website, holy cow, we got 35 calculators. We can calculate when you're going to die and all kinds of stuff, right? So, like that's the kind of stuff where there's a wealth management side of banking that has been really neglected. And I think there's going to be a battle that's going to be made, especially when we're talking about banking as a service, and you talk about all these wealth management concepts that really should be in banking that aren't, because regulators have and I understand why, but they've gotten in the way of saying, no, you have to be SEC regulated to give advice. But then there's banking that's like, well, wait, we give advice all the time. And because I'm not recommending a investment portfolio allocation doesn't mean I'm not giving wealth management advice. Like I can tell you how much money you should save to buy a boat in 5 years, or buy a house in 5 years, or whatever that is, but I can't tell you how much to put into your investment portfolio because I'm not registered. I happen to be registered, so I have these conversations all the time, and how kind of there's an assumption there that is going to be a battle that the SEC and even the FDIC and the Fed and banking as in general are just going to have to figure out over time, because the technology has made it so that conversations merge together. Right
there. Okay, that is exactly where we landed. Man, I love this guy.
It was good.
Real good. We landed on the same spots, and it's like, why
keeping in mind there's two of us to talk, right? We don't have to talk to ourselves all the time, so all the better.
You kind of get to a moment in time where you see this is where this has to go, and then you start saying, okay, how do we facilitate that better? So what are we going to do in Washington? What are we going to do as an association? What are we going to do? It's just bankers helping bankers. How are ways that we can, get this information correctly? Because here's the deal, guys. And being a little bit older, I'll say this as an old guy. Okay,
man, let us
PFM, personal financial management, telling me where I spent my money. Here's a pie chart telling me, Dave, you drank too much pizza, or ate too much, drank too much beer, ate too much pizza, or whatever. Went to too many movies, or whatever. Too many dates, right?
There you go.
That's cool for about an hour, and then you're going to outgrow that at a point in your life. And what you're going to want to know is, how the hell do I make money? And anybody that's talking about retirement, at some point, this becomes an issue in your life. And then you start getting a little greedy, going, well, how the hell can I make more money, right? Well, I heard about this guy who told me this. And all right, now I want to take charge, because I'm not a mouth breather, right?
Right.
I'm a regular guy.
Yeah.
I'm over here going, I got a phone, I got TV, I learn, I can listen, I can communicate, I can educate myself. Now I want to action myself.
Cool.
Now, when I can't take an action myself, that's where I start getting pissed off.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, what happened to the generation below kind of all of you guys is the Robin Hood generation. We give you a stimulus check, we lock you up in the house for a few months, and you figured out Robin Hood.
Just
It's
action
like,
the shit.
I mean, so they're just like over the top with action. And now we've like gamified investing. Very, very dangerous move.
Yep.
All right. So to your point, we've said okay to Robin Hood, but not okay to bankers. Bullshit.
Good.
That's what we have to fix.
Yeah, and on top of that, it truly comes down to the fact that, you know, us as community bankers have been around. We know our communities, we know our people, right? I don't care, and there's going to be somebody on here that says, "Oh, he don't know what he's talking about." I'm a millennial. I hang out with Gen Zers all the time. I know I've coached so many kids in soccer. Like, I've seen the social media revolution and all these crazy things that they're doing now. The reality is, those kids today, even though they're on Robinhood, what they're doing is they're learning, right? They're putting money out in the marketplace and they're seeing what happens. At a certain point, it gets real, like you talked about, like, how do I make money? I got to actually think about actually retiring. Like, rubber meets the road at a certain point. Life events happen at a certain point. I got a kid. I can't just go gamble my money on Robinhood. I gotta actually be a steward of these funds. You know, I can't just work my way out of something. So that's going to happen to all these generations. I don't care what generation it is. The other fact is that social media and this public persona of every kid nowadays is really hammered that confidence side, right? So where does community banking land in that space of, okay, one, I hear way too much noise and there's everybody on YouTube's got a plan, right? Which plan is the best plan? Second, I got everybody on social media and everywhere saying, hey, you can do it yourself if you want to. Come see Robinhood and do it. But then there's the consequence side of, oh my gosh, I've got all these things being said and I got all these ways to go do it, but I don't have any confidence in what I'm actually doing. I might read, I might learn, and a lot of this stuff ain't going to work for everybody because everybody's got decisions, right? You know, if I got a Starbucks habit and I'm emotionally attached to Starbucks and you're a financial advisor that says, hey, quit going to Starbucks. And you're like, that's great, but I'm emotionally attached to Starbucks. That's not going to really connect with me, right?
My rewards, man.
Exactly. Yeah. So, that's where the community bank comes in, and that relationship is going to change, where even though people have found their digital front door to the bank with the app, and that's never going to go away, it's just going to get better, and it's going to be more. I'm going to be able to do it. I think of it of the mobile app being like a financial remote control and your communication tool with whatever it is that you're trying to do. And then the bank really should be, your guidepost and your validation and all those confidence building things, like, hey, who do I go talk to about really private stuff that I don't want to even, talk to my friends about, because I might be embarrassed about my finances because I went and gambled all my money away on Robinhood, right? And I'm 30 years old and 40 years old and I ain't got a dime to my name. But who do I go talk to about that? That's the difference between the humanization of a community bank and being a, number in a bigger bank, or being an email or a chat on an app, right? There is that humanization. And that's where a community bank needs to take this incredible technology that's been created, these wonderful platforms and tools, and say they're not enemies, they're assets to us, and bring that humanization to it and merge that humanization of what you're doing in finance to just the person and the person that's sitting there in front of you. And it's eventually it's going to be like, we're talking here and we might do our banking at a bar someday, right? And I mean, there are people doing it right now, but it's going to be that kind of relationship type stuff. It takes us back to the 80s where the Scotch cabinets, in the back, right?
John, I talk to two kinds of bankers every day, and it's the kind of guys that sound just like you, that they're saying the same exact thing. And then there's the guys more my age they just dismiss it. And they dismiss bass banking. They dismiss wealth management changes and the power of the phone and the app. And they go to their core and they're like, well, we don't have that feature.
What do we do?
What do we do? How can I do something to do onboarding differently, or new account opening? And it's a sad case right now. But to
be fair about it, you got to say, I mean, just what we've seen in our careers, there's been a hell of a lot of change in the last decade or so, right? But there's also been 10 times as much fear mongering that hasn't come to pass. Right. I can imagine over your 40 years, how much of that crap has gone on that hasn't ended the world.
What I wanted to say to the bankers out there listening to this. I mean, there was a time where somebody talked to you about a website and you're like, what's a friggin' website? Never heard of that shit, right? What? And okay, now online banking is just like, it's part of your bank. Yeah. All right. This is how you need to view these things that we're talking about. And for the bankers like John, man, I'm assuming you guys are all in on bankers helping bankers, and all these bankers help each other learn. This is not us teaching you, or it's everybody teaching everybody and everybody trying to learn. All we do and all we're about is taking the bullshit out of the room. The people that are trying to sell you something, the people that they're half informed or pontificating about crazy shit that's never going to happen, and start getting down to how do I actually implement that? If I want to do this, how do I do it? And you guys took the time to say, okay, look, I mean, I kind of know the backstory of how y'all have done what you've done. But the fact that you just sit down and said, let's look outside the box a little bit. Let's talk to our core. Let's talk to how we're going to hook this thing up and how we're going to become this bass bank operationally. And there's, and I know some of the other cool things that you're working on some of the kinks to work out. Got some great advice, already given some of that this morning to the other side of the fence for you guys. So there's neat things that are happening. We're all trying to help each other. And man, I tell you what, people like you, I hope you're famous all over the U.S. after this, and everybody realizes what leadership that you bring in Oklahoma, and let the other bankers sit down and say, hey, I need to talk to Big John, man. He knows what's up.
Good call.
And help us figure this stuff out.
Hey, man, give me final thoughts real quick. What did we not cover? What else is on your mind?
No, I mean, really, you talk about bankers helping bankers. I think the biggest thing that we need to do is, bankers need to come together and look at us as a coalition against the mega banks more than anything, but really advocates for the people that don't know that community banking is evolving and exists. So there's the side of the folks like, the leadership at our bank that it has a forward thinking, thought process. That doesn't mean we're wild. That means we're still a community bank that's forward thinking, which means we're pretty conservative overall. Right. That community banks are, a place where you're not a number, even in the digital age. Mm-hmm. And we got to tell that story more and more. And one of the things that is really important is, just like we were talking in crypto, like, we've got to get together as community banks and understand that, like, banking as a service is a thing that's real, and it's going to just grow. And there's going to be a lot of digital players out there that are going to leapfrog community banks because we have so much legacy technology that's out there, and we got to come together and have, get educated. And that's the hardest thing that I find is I talk to so many bankers that are scared. They have more aptitude, more ability to learn this stuff. I agree. And they're smarter than I'll ever be. I promise you that. But they're just scared to jump into it. I mean, even my dad he's not a big crypto guy, but he's gotten into it enough to where he's saying, when we do this banking as a service thing, we might have a closed network blockchain. We're going to get into commercial smart contracts. We're going to do, we're going to be part of some Oracle network that allows us to pass things from chain to chain. Like, this is, a 60-year-old man that has run a bank for about 35 years that's starting to understand this thing, right? Awesome. And so it can happen, and it just takes a little bit of effort. But there's a lot of help out there too. There's a lot of people that are genuine in the space that are ready to help you and not compete with you.
Right.
And so that's the biggest thing that I would say is we need more people coming together to have these conversations.
That was absolutely awesome, man. I'm so glad I asked you that. That was it gave my message, man. I appreciate the hell out of you saying that. So
that's great. You know, everybody realizes this is not the end of the game. This is the third quarter. You know, we're over here establishing a new basis for everything that we're going to do. And for all the FinTech guys that are out there on their own that are finding, you know, it's a lot better if I go back to the banks and work with them. As we establish this base and that comes into the fourth quarter, more and more, well, community banking's got a huge future. And people that have written the community banks off, first, go to hell. And second, we're going to
I love it.
we'll prove you wrong.
Hey, man,
That's
thank you so much for coming and visiting with us today. And thanks for the message, man. I learned a ton. It was really good.
Well, John, I'm going to be sending all kinds of people in Oklahoma your way if you're okay with that.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. You guys are awesome, as always, funny as hell. So look forward to hearing from you guys again. And yeah, send them all my way. I'd love to chat with them.
Sounds good,
All right,
man.
buddy. Thanks.
See you next time.
Thanks for running.
Take care. See ya.